here's the thing.
What we call America feels like it started recently. But it didn't.
Long before cities,
there were civilizations here.
Complex, advanced, forgotten, and most people never hear about them.
what secrets do these stones hold about the civilization that built them?
What if the first chapter of America was never written down? What if the land had already lived through rise and collapse long before maps, flags, or borders existed? We're told America began with discovery. But discovery only happens when you ignore what was already there. Tonight, we step into the time before the name, before the myth, before America. For thousands of years, this land was not silent. It was organized, connected, alive. People did not simply survive here. They engineered their worlds. They shaped ecosystems, redirected rivers, domesticated plants, and built societies that lasted longer than many modern nations. Yet, when history is told, they are reduced to a prologue, a footnote before someone else's story begins. They came not as conquerors, but as survivors, crossing into a new world shaped by ice and uncertainty. Over generations, they spread, adapting to deserts, forests, mountains, and coastlines. Not one people, but many. Languages multiplied, beliefs diverged, knowledge passed not through books, but through memory, ritual, and landscape. Time moved differently here, measured not in years, but in seasons and stories. Build strength, controlled authority. Some civilizations did not build upward, they built outward, into the land itself. Vast networks of mounds, roads, and ceremonial centers rose across the continent. Cities without walls, power without kings. These were not primitive settlements. They were planned, engineered, intentional. And when they vanished, they did not collapse in flames. They faded, absorbed back into the earth, as if the land reclaimed its authors. In the south, cities rose that rivaled the scale of the ancient world. Astronomers tracked the heavens, engineers mastered water, rulers governed populations in the millions. But their histories were not preserved in libraries. They lived in stone, in soil, in alignment with the stars. When those records were destroyed, silence replaced memory. And silence is easy to mistake for absence. more forward momentum. This continent was not isolated. Ideas traveled, goods moved, cultures exchanged knowledge. Copper from distant lands, shells from far coasts, crops bred and shared across thousands of miles. This was not a scattered wilderness, it was a network. A world that understood connection long before the word globalization existed. Power here did not always mean domination.
Give us strength.
Leadership was often temporary, authority earned, not inherited.
Only together
Some
can we ensure the
societies
future
ruled
of
through
these hills
consensus,
and our people.
others through belief, many through balance. And that balance between people and land was not accidental. They did not ask how much the earth could give. They asked how much they could take without breaking it. But no civilization is permanent. Climate shifted, rivers changed course, droughts arrived without warning. Internal tensions grew, trade routes collapsed. Some societies adapted, others fragmented. By the time unfamiliar ships appeared on distant shores, many worlds had already ended. What followed was not discovery, it was interruption.
The earliest maps of
When
this coastline were
newcomers
wildly
arrived,
inaccurate, often relying on guesswork
they
and
did
rumor
not
rather than
see
precise survey.
civilizations. They saw land. They named it empty. And in doing so, made it so. Entire histories were dismissed, overwritten, or deliberately destroyed. Not because they didn't exist, but because they did not fit the story being told. Imagine what vanished without record. Knowledge of ecosystems, sustainable agriculture, social systems built on balance, not extraction. Imagine a future shaped by what was forgotten. This was not a simple past. It was a different one.
From this height, we see the modern arteries of commerce.
But the
stretching
land
across a landscape
never
forever
forgot.
changed by agriculture and engineering.
Beneath cities, highways, and farmland, the foundations remain. Mounds flattened, but not erased. Paths buried, but not gone. History doesn't disappear. It waits.
In their faces, we see the echoes of the past and the resilience required to
To
reclaim their story
understand
for the future.
America, we must accept that it did not begin with arrival. It began with continuity, with people who belonged to the land, not because they claimed it, but because they lived within its limits. This is not about nostalgia. It is about truth. If America was never empty, if its first civilizations were sophisticated, connected, and enduring, then the real question is not who discovered this land, but why its earliest story was allowed to disappear.
From this vantage point, the
America
Earth
did
reveals its
not
true nature,
begin when
a
it was
fragile orb
named.
bathed in the fading light of
It
day.
began long before, and it is still standing on what it forgot.
This is America Unlocked.